So I'm welcome you to the whole morning session for Fortinet Cloud Security. We have some topics today for cloud security, FortiDevSecOps, and the CNP, FortiCNP. And the agenda is first part is cloud security, network security, and the second part is DevSecOps and some demos. And between the sessions, there will be a break. Okay, with us are Philippe Saint-Pierre and Adrian Samali, and they will introduce themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Rudy. It's a pleasure. Do you hear me okay? Just to check. All right, perfect. So very welcome to all. And it's a hybrid session, so we have some people in the room, which really pleased that you could make it. And also very welcome to the ones remote. We will cover today a rich agenda, but first I'll let Adrien present himself.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So it's also the first full morning session for me. I'm very pleased to be here as well. And yeah, very cool to welcome you.
Adrien is a cloud SE within Fortinet, and I'm in charge of cloud business development for Switzerland. So the objective is to see how we can do co-sell and help you sell cloud security to your customer. Good. So don't be impressed. The agenda is a bit rich, but we have also some time. So we are going just to start positioning the cloud security into the bigger Fortinet picture to introduce Fortinet's strength and where cloud sits into the portfolio. Yeah, that's the point. And then we will review what is our value prop for cloud security and how you can explain this value to your customer. We will look into some use cases where we can also design, implement cloud security with your customer. We will have some demo about Azure and Azure security, Azure VWAN Hub. We will talk about AWS security. We will just say a few words about Google Cloud because you don't see that much, but we will just also cover it quickly. Then we'll discuss about FlexVM. We have a new licensing option for virtual machines. So we will explain what it is, the benefits for customer, how you can propose and sell it. And then we'll spend a good amount of time after the break on container security, DevSecOps, code security, code scanning, customers doing application native design and development, and how you can help secure them also across multi-cloud if they have, two clouds. Yeah. So we are going to cover this and we'll do some demo. So you get these new tools because you may not be familiar with them. We will just spend a bit of time on this. Yeah. Okay. You can interact and ask questions anytime, also on the phone. Don't hesitate. Yeah, we're here to help and answer your question, help you be comfortable with our cloud solutions. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't hesitate to interrupt. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. And thank you very much again. So we are going to go through a quick introduction of why we talk about cloud security and our value prop. So cloud security is just an evolution of the big picture, which is the convergence between networking and security, where we see cloud security just as an extension of the customer footprint today, because you secure the customer data center, you secure the customer branch, IT, and now you're just extending this network security into public cloud. This is not a revolution either. It's just an extension. Yeah, that's how we see it. So when you look at where we come from, which is the network security, we have obviously a capability to help secure the customer environment into their on-prem, yeah, with the Wi-Fi controller, NAC, FortiNAC solution, 5G solution, Wi-Fi solution. Also, we have a very strong SD-WAN, obviously, offering. And we have a point-to-point security offering. So now we are just helping customers migrate from appliance, physical appliance, to virtual machine to secure their perimeter security, and then obviously leverage the fact that Fortinet can offer physical appliance, virtual machine, container solutions, and SaaS. So we'll talk about FortiCloud, yeah? So the objective is really to say, okay, now we secure you with physical appliance in your data center. Now you can extend Fortinet into different form factor and protect your application, protect your cloud also. It's just an extension, yeah? And that comes from the convergence and the fact that security is everywhere. And that's what we want to help customers with. So very much the points where we bring value to customers is also the fabric, because the fabric is for us a way to simplify the customer security environment by the fact our products are integrated one with each other. So you will have endpoint security and zero trust, logging into the FortiSIEM and FortiAnalyzer. And that's the same, for example, for all our products into the different pillar. We will cover quickly the different pillar, yeah, so that you position cloud security. Cloud security is one of our strategic pillar, but we have also 4 other strategic pillar that we will cover very quickly now, yeah. And cloud security is just, again, integrated with all of these different solutions. So I will start first with pillar number 1, which is obviously our endpoint protection. Yeah, this is client, FortiClient, FortiEDR, FortiEXDR, and this type of ZTNA solutions. I will then cover quickly our strength on network security, then a few words on OT, IoT security, and obviously then we go into cloud security. Yeah. So this is just to position cloud security as one of the strategic pillars for Fortinet. This is not just the only one, but that is important. So let's start with the red one. So network security first. So network security, obviously we can secure all the networking and perimetric security for your customer. But where we have a very strong value prop that we are promoting right now to customer is hybrid, flexible networking with SD-WAN. Because customers are evolving from MPLS, from VPN, standard connectivity, they are now looking for hybrid, efficient networking, low-cost networking over internet. And you can help this customer go into this SD-WAN and obviously SD-WAN to the cloud. Yeah, because you can have cloud on-ramp termination of your SD-WAN using cloud native or SD-WAN native feature of FortiGate and FortiGate VM. So SD-WAN is obviously an important part of you helping customers to migrate and evolve their networking and also take benefit of the cloud because you terminate SD-WAN into public cloud, the same way with the FortiGate VM. Okay, so that is an interesting solution because you bring quality of service, you bring obviously cost improvements into networking, and you enable hybrid networking end-to-end for your customer. So that's one. Again, stop me any question, huh? Because I assume you're familiar with SD-WAN, so I'm not spending time into this, but it's just a quick recap. Okay, so we just happen to be the leader into the Gartner quadrant for SD-WAN again. So obviously that's one of our strengths. Now, if you look at the left pillar, which is endpoint protection, workstation, and end user environment security, then obviously ZTNA is what you want to engage your customer with. You want to help customer implement ZTNA end-to-end from endpoint, from branch to data center to the cloud. So it's a consistent story. And the objective is here to leverage what FortiGate plus FortiClient and FortiClient AMS can enable to create secure tunnel and application zero trust access. Yeah. So this is really enabling granular control per application. It's really enabling end-to-end, obviously zero trust authentication. And obviously, it's improving the user experience to have you don't have to connect to a VPN tunnel and get things set up, like the old way. So this is one of the interests. And the same way, you can terminate your zero trust to public cloud and secure access to the public cloud through zero trust using FortiClient and FortiGate. That's another use case, if you look at it high level, to secure the customer end-to-end from his workstation to public cloud. Okay. Again, if you have questions, let me know. SASE is the new kid in the block, as we say, and I wanted to say a few words about FortiSASE because it's quite recent, I would say. So SASE is a combination of what we've been presenting so far. So network security plus endpoint security plus ZTNA applied into as a service. Yeah. So the way it works is we have combined FortiClient with FortiGate, with ZTNA and SD-WAN settings. So it's the combo of everything, hosted by Fortinet, managed by Fortinet, available as a service. So you have a FortiSASE console, where you can configure the security rules for your endpoints, for your applications, and you have all of that delivered by you as a partner to set up the environment, and then by Fortinet into the run rate, because we are operating this platform also for you and for your customer. So that is an interesting solution, which also scaled very well into public cloud, because you can implement security as a service from endpoint to data center to public cloud the same way, with cloud on-ramp capability. So I just wanted to share that as an introduction. So the building block, So you see where we can bring value to the customer. And the cloud is just an extension, again, for each of these services, It's not, it's not something special. But you can buy the ZTNA, buy the SASE, by SD-WAN. You can just secure the cloud, by the way. Any question on ZTNA, SASE, SD-WAN, and our portfolio before we go into cloud? So FortiSASE, the way you have to look at it is a form factor. So you have FortiGate physical appliance, you have FortiGate VM, that you can deploy anywhere. And now you have FortiSASE, which is as a service managed by Fortinet security service, Okay. All right. So another thing I wanted to cover as an introduction is you're all familiar with the MITRE attack chain and processes. And Fortinet is very committed, to help you into this framework, and help customer. So we have some recommendations which are very important for you as partner to convey to your customer, which is to really obviously take the benefits of the Fortinet fabric, the Fortinet cybersecurity mesh, because you have a great opportunity to position the right products from Fortinet into the attack chain to protect your customer end-to-end. So this is clearly something we will present during the meeting here. But what is important is to have obviously some external protection, which comes from we call it deception. So what is that? This is a way for your customer to understand how they have a risk of being attacked by external cyber criminal on the dark web, on external footprint in websites, their brands. How is on the dark web? How is their brand exposed, and how much they can retrieve stolen credentials or anything related to their brands or their company. So deception is becoming more and more important. And for this, we have a product which is called FortiDeceptor, where you will give direct and complete visibility to your customer of how they are exposed out there. Yeah. And this is obviously a reporting tool. Then you give it to the SOC and then we take actions. But that is an interesting way. So it's how are you exposed from the external? Yeah. So we should advise customer to implement something like this, especially if they are B2C type of customer, yeah, and their brand is important. It's very important. It's very important to protect themselves. Yeah. Then obviously web, DNS, and C2 protection, AI detection becomes more and more important because if you take, for example, FortiWeb, which is our WAF, you can configure as much as you can in terms of application protection, yeah, in terms of rules, but you cannot protect against unknown threats, yeah. So that AI is becoming key because the fact that there is machine learning, the fact that you understand the behavior of the traffic into that application, and we adapt automatically the rules according to this traffic, will play a much more important role in the future to protect your customer. Obviously, advanced IPS, that is our core, yeah, endpoint protection becomes more and more critical. So that's why I presented quickly ZTNA and FortiClient, and obviously sandboxing. Yeah, you as a partner, think about sandboxing, you know, because that's really a way to protect against unknown threats. And you can couple sandboxing with FortiGate, with FortiWeb, with any of our products, and it really creates a much stronger security footprint for your customer. All right, and obviously segmentation, I will not tell you about that, but that is the key recommendations we have for 2023 for the FortiGuard lab. So how to map our product portfolio into the MITRE attack chain? This is that picture. For sure, I will give you the slide after the meeting because it's a rich picture. But you see, I was talking about FortiRecon. That's our deception tool. FortiDeceptor, FortiRecon. So this is protecting from the outside, and then you protect from the inside. And this is obviously FortiGate is the core, but you see that we have much more solutions in our portfolio. And the colors belong to the pillar. Yeah, what I was presenting before, you can group the products by pillar, and then you know where they fit in terms of the endpoint protection, the network protection, the IT, IoT, or cloud. Okay, so that is, I will not spend too much time in this picture, but this is just to give you an overview of how we fit within the MITRE attack against the pillar, and how you can discuss with your customer how you can leverage the benefits of the fabric, because it's not just about FortiGate, yeah? And we're not talking just about FortiGate. We are talking about your end-to-end security, and that is quite important, okay? Any question on that before we go into cloud security, finally, which is the topic of the day? Anyone? No question? Good. Okay, so let's go into cloud security. Yeah, now we have done the introduction, so you have the big picture and what Fortinet does for a living, I would say, yeah? Now, cloud security. Well, what we propose customer is simple. Secure your application anywhere. On-prem, in your data center, anywhere you want to run your applications, we will secure your application end-to-end anywhere. So that's our value prop, that's our motto in the end. And obviously more and more customers are now developing new applications into public cloud because it's easier, it's more convenient, it's faster. You don't care about the infrastructure, and a lot of developers are now using Toolbox into public cloud to fast track application development. So it's becoming the norm, yeah? So you want to protect your customer and customer application into public cloud. That's absolutely key. Otherwise, someone else will do, I can tell you, yeah? So now the challenge is, as your customer starts to develop application into public cloud, well, they will just click on the mouse and deploy Azure Firewall because it's there. It's up and running. It's simple. It's click on the mouse. Yeah. And then obviously the marketing team may deploy this great new application into Google because you have analytics and you can know what's happening behind the screen. And then you end up with customers adopting cloud and cloud security into an unmanaged approach, which becomes a nightmare for the security team into your customer because it's crawling everywhere. So your customers have a bit of network there, a bit of security there, a bit of container security, open source products, a bit of, it's a mess, yeah, very quickly. And obviously some of your customers are not there yet, but it goes really fast as they start onboarding the cloud, yeah. So you want to be proactive to this customer. You want to demonstrate that cloud security is something that has to be discussed and designed before you adopt the cloud, not after, because then it's too late, it's too complex, it's a recovery mode, yeah? So you want to play your advisor role and explain that cloud security is something we have to talk now and design and help you implement right day one, yeah? So that is the objective. And the objective is obviously not just to do cloud security, is to enable end-to-end security from data center, from applications, from public cloud, from anywhere, and not just public cloud security, yeah, which makes no sense. Because you don't want to recreate all your rules and your everything into just public cloud. It's one more complexity for zero, yeah, for nothing. So that is the approach, and that's why it's important to be proactive into public cloud security, yeah. So what do we do? Why Fortinet, by the way? Because yeah, go and deploy an Azure firewall, it works, yeah. Why Fortinet? But because in the end, we are, and that's Gartner saying it, yeah, it's not me or Fortinet. Yeah, a public cloud firewall is good enough in a way, yeah. But who has been doing good enough into security so far? Yeah, I mean, is that a good enough approach? Yeah, I mean that is clearly an issue. Yeah, going with a good enough product into security is not the right approach. And whenever you have that discussion with a customer, we obviously have the list of features one by one on IPS, on TLS, on SSL. We have the list of features to demonstrate where we have strength. Yeah. So I don't present that here, but if you have this discussion with a customer, we give you the data sheet, we give you the material where you can demonstrate the feature set where we are obviously stronger and better. It's not just a philosophical discussion. Huh? Okay. Now, obviously, you want to manage your policies and your rules consistently end-to-end from hybrid, public, private, data center. Just want to have the same rules. You don't want to recreate routing tables and security policies into Cloud A, Cloud B, Cloud C. So FortiManager, FortiGate enables you to do that absolutely seamlessly across any platform. Yeah, so that is a very much added value. We are integrated with each cloud provider. So we will show you today how we integrate with Azure, how we integrate with AWS and a bit of Google. So it's not just sitting on top, yeah, it's integrated. You can launch a Lambda function in AWS from FortiGate. You can do the same with an Azure function. So that's quite key. Now, price, customer will tell you, yeah, but if I go with a public cloud firewall and a load balancer, it's cheaper. Okay, let's look at it, yeah. It's cheaper if you have zero volume because you pay by throughput into public cloud, yeah. So if you have no volume entering your firewall, yeah, for sure it's cheaper. But as soon as you start having volume and traffic, then it becomes way much more expensive, yeah, because we license by VM CPU, not by throughput. So yeah, I mean, depends on how you compare, because very quickly it can become 3, 4, 5 times much more expensive, yeah. So you have to pay attention at this price advantage discussion, yeah. Obviously, FortiGate, FortiWeb, FortiMail, FortiManager, they all have high availability design, and we can auto scale into a scale set into public cloud. So when customers tell you, yeah, I mean, it's better to go cloud native because it auto scales. Okay, fine, we auto scales same way. There's no reason why you cannot auto scale a FortiGate VM or a FortiWeb. It's the same. So no, it's not a differentiator. And then we can help you more and more. You as a partner will need to do security as code, yeah? Because when you have a customer a bit larger with different tools and solutions, you don't want to deploy manually anymore the security rules by site. So you want to go with Terraform, you want to use Ansible, and that is ready to use. We have the libraries we will show you in a minute, yeah? And you as a partner can help be proactive, engage with your customer about cloud security, and demonstrate that you can help them end-to-end deploy and operate the right solution. So that is also something you have to consider as a value proposal for yourself as a partner. Okay? Any question on that? Anyone face that discussion with customers? No? All right. Good. So any application, anywhere, any cloud, you know about it. So I will not again explain. So that's our value prop. That's just another way of representing it. And also, obviously, we do SaaS protection, yeah, not just YAS or PAS or whatever. Okay, so that's more or less the same message. So now let's look into our portfolio, the solutions. Yeah, obviously we have to sell something in the end. So what do we sell? Yeah, so we will obviously talk about network security on the top. We will talk briefly about application security on the right. Then, yeah, also SaaS and application productivity, I would say. And on the left, this is the new solutions we would like to demo to you today, which is multi-cloud security and DevSec, which is application native cloud security. Okay, so that is our public cloud security portfolio. So let's go into the use case, how you can engage with your customer into different needs, yeah? So use case, let's start from the bottom to the top. So use case one is obviously network security. So, I mean, that's the basics, huh? How you can extend the customer SD-WAN to public cloud, cloud on-ramp, how you can enable and secure remote access, how you can enable end-to-end micro-segmentation from your applications to public cloud, and how you can secure hybrid clouds, yeah, meaning VMware to Azure, how you can create a seamless security management, security rules. So that is the use case one, yeah, that's network security to public cloud. Use case two is how can you enable compliance, risk management, how can you look at risks into public cloud, yeah, and then how you can yeah, get SIEM, log, analytics into your risks end-to-end from each public cloud. So we will go, that's the FortiCNP, so we will discuss about it, yeah. And last one is how to secure applications development, how to secure application production, and how to secure application yeah, life cycle in the end, yeah. So this is container, this is obviously visibility on SaaS and application security for WAF and DevSecOps. Okay, so I did also the mapping between each of the use case to help you and our products, yeah, where our products are relevant. So it's another way to look at our portfolio. So you've seen our portfolio with the MITRE-ATT&CK view, and that's the way to see our portfolio from a use case view, yeah? So it's just the same portfolio, the same products, but from a different angle, so you understand how you can position it best to your customer, okay? So I will not go in detail again, but yeah, that's the mapping, which is interesting. And if anyone has questions, that's also the good moment, yeah? Clear? Just say yes and no. Great, okay. So let's continue. Now, cloud network security, use case at the bottom, use case one, yeah? So what do? We do end-to-end security from the branch office to the data center. You're used to have this FortiGate physical appliance there. Then sometimes you have also a physical appliance into the branch office. Now, what we want to do is we want obviously to extend that with a FortiGate VM into public cloud. And then that's becoming now more interesting. That FortiGate VM that you deploy on Azure, for example, can terminate a VPN, IPsec tunnel, and filter the traffic incoming to public cloud. Yeah, it's basic functionality. But we are going much further than this because we can also leverage and protect the cloud networking construct. So Azure comes with ExpressRoute, with VWAN, yeah, application gateway. They have their own networking construct. So you want to help customers leverage the networking construct of public cloud, not just terminate VPN traffic into public cloud. Yeah. So we are going to look at that. How can you leverage and help the customer use the networking construct of the cloud provider? Because what happens is each of the cloud provider is becoming a network provider. That's the reality. Huh? They have cables all over the oceans. They have their own networking solutions, backbone, and now point-to-point. So like ExpressRoute, like VWAN, yeah. So they are attacking the telco, I can tell you, huh? Not just the infrastructure solution. So this is important that you have that networking discussion with your customer, not just security. Yeah? How can you help your customer adopt some of the interesting networking solutions of the cloud provider is a key discussion. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go into that. And that is this end-to-end picture, which is important. And that's where you play the role of the advisor to help your customer onboard the cloud, secure the cloud, enable the right network strategy end-to-end. Okay. Questions? No. Good. How do you? That's just an illustration of SD-WAN to the cloud. Yeah. How you can terminate SD-WAN to the cloud? Do you want to say a few words, maybe Adrien, because I speak too much?
No, it's fine. Go ahead, and
okay,
I will take over afterwards.
All right. I keep speaking then. So SD-WAN to the cloud. So yeah, you can terminate your MPLS, or you can implement over internet access to public cloud. Then it's your customer and your interest to leverage SD-WAN, because you can implement SD-WAN cloud on ramp. Then you have this hybrid networking, secured point-to-point with the full flexibility of SD-WAN. And you can enable SD-WAN to SaaS provider, Salesforce or Office 365, whatever, Microsoft 365, yeah. So you will set up SD-WAN termination tunnel to this public cloud SaaS provider, but you can also do the same into the IaaS, into Azure, for example, or AWS, where you terminate the SD-WAN tunnel into Azure through the FortiGate VM. Yeah, so that's just an illustration on how you can combine cloud security with SD-WAN and help your customer get hybrid network the best way. Okay, so and then you get obviously application prioritization, you get quality of service to the cloud, not just to your data center, but also to the cloud. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. You can play with that, and customers who develop new application into public cloud, they will need SD-WAN because they want to have priority and quality of service. Okay, that's an illustration of that use case one, which is network security at the bottom. Now, how do we integrate? Because we claim we integrate with the public cloud provider. Okay, great, that's good. Everybody will claim that. But it's quite interesting the way we have done it, because we have SDN connector, by the way, that you have to activate. Huh? That integration is not by default. So you have to go into FortiGate console. You have to activate the SDN connector to Azure. Yeah. And then you can integrate with Azure networking, Azure environments. So you can, for example, log your FortiGate into Sentinel. If the customer wants to use Sentinel, that's an option, yeah, or vice versa. You can collect the logs into FortiSIEM from Azure, yeah, so you will use the SDN connector to collect the logs from Azure into your SIEM, or vice versa, yeah. Something interesting, for example, Azure Cloud Function. A lot of customers start to use them because they are very easy. Yeah. To whenever you develop an application, you want to use Cloud Function, so you save a lot of code. Yeah. So the same way, when you are defining your security rules into FortiGate, and there is, for example, a port which is at risk, or there is potentially an IP which is a risk, you want to close the traffic to that application virtual machine. Yeah, you want to block it. So what you do then, you define a rule into FortiGate. If that happens, then do that, and you launch an Azure function to close traffic to that port, to that VM. So you do that with an automation stitch into FortiGate console. Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with automation stitches. So you have a menu into FortiGate admin where you can create automation stitch. So if actions A arise, do something. Yeah. And the do something could be, I launch an Azure function to do something on Azure. It works absolutely well. Yeah. And then the something could be close traffic to that VM, whatever, I mean, whatever you want to do as a security partner. Yeah. But that is the type of integration we have. And you do the same with a Lambda function in AWS. So it's not just same rules from data center to Azure into your FortiGate, but it's also orchestrating security into the public clouds. Yeah. And you can even go a bit beyond that, because you could define your security rules against metadata. You don't have to do it by IP, by ports, by whatever. You can define your security rules on metadata level, and then you propagate the metadata triggers and to the public cloud. So you're agnostic on which public cloud that you have your security rules defined. So your customer can migrate their application anywhere from public cloud A, from region A to region B, public cloud A to public cloud B. Since your security rules are defined at metadata level, yeah, it's just propagated to another cloud. Yeah. So you can use FortiGate in an advanced way to create value for your customer, not just if traffic A comes from that port, block this. And so you want to go a bit, and you want to leverage the FortiGate capability, yeah, to also help create value to your customer into public cloud. So that is one of the message, but you have all the tools to do that. Yeah, the automation stitches, the metadata, rule definition, that is all supported by FortiGate. And I know it's not something you do every day, but if you need help, we have enough people in the room here to help you anytime with this. Yeah. Okay. Good. So that's about how we integrate with the cloud provider. Any question again? Yeah, Sylvia. Hold on. I give you the microphone. Yeah, take the microphone. It's better.
Okay, I have just a question regarding the metadata. Can you give an example how you create such metadata or how you define them?
Yeah, we have not planned to do a demo on the FortiGate console, but as Adrien speaks, I will take some material and I will show it right after.
Okay, fine.
Yeah,
thanks.
really good question. Yeah, because you're right. Let's be concrete about how you do this. Yeah, I will do that after the V1 presentation. Good point. Okay. All right, so let's continue. So we integrate with public cloud provider. Yeah, you understood how we do it, but we integrate with much more. We have this connector and this fabric connector and APIs to Splunk, to Tuffin, if the customer wants to orchestrate security end-to-end with fancy things. We do that obviously with Red Hat. So yeah, so that's something where we have a rich ecosystem. And it's the right moment now to take the benefit of that, yeah? Use this connector, use these APIs to help create a consistent end-to-end security, leverage the fabric, yeah? So this is really something we want to educate you much more so you can talk to your customer about the rich ecosystem that Fortinet brings, yeah? It's not just a standalone. We integrate with all these things, yeah? So if you want to orchestrate security across all of that, yeah, easy. VMware and Azure and Splunk, fine. You can do it easily, yeah? There's no problem. Okay? Now, we go now into the solution. How do you secure public cloud, the basics, yeah? How do you want to terminate traffic into a public cloud? Well, it's very simple. Minimum you need is you deploy a FortiGate VM, pair of VM, so 2 VMs, active or active passive, yeah? You deploy a pair of FortiGate VMs into the public cloud, and we call that a cloud security service hub. So this is where you terminate all the incoming traffic into Azure, for example. And then we give you all the templates to deploy that from GitHub, yeah? So you don't really have to spend much time into this. We give you the templates and you create that construct. And then all the traffic comes from the customer data center, from the branch into this cloud security service hub through an entry load balancer. And then you can protect the traffic that goes into the VNet, into the customer application running on Azure, yeah? That's the basic, yeah? And obviously you can enrich this cloud security service hub with much more solutions which will improve the level of security. Yeah, you can, for example, combine this with FortiSandbox, so you can filter the unknown threats coming into public cloud, yeah, for example. So that is the concept, yeah. And obviously, then the customer will leverage all of the FortiGuard services that he has into his physical appliance, into his data center, exactly the same way into public cloud, yeah. So that's what we recommend. So we will go more in detail on how to do that and how to deploy these templates, yeah. But that's the concept. So now we will focus on the cloud provider and how to deploy on Azure, how to deploy on AWS, how to make it work, and how to leverage the network construct on this cloud provider. Okay, so that's we covered the value add, high-level solution overview for public cloud security. Now we go more in concrete solutions. Any question additional? No? Okay. So let's go into Azure. Hand over to you.
Thank you so much. I will come right back to the questions of Sylvia just as I do the demo. Yeah, but first, we have a concept called Cloud Security Services Hub. This means we deploy a subscription, a dedicated subscription to deploy all our security services in the cloud. So this means we have a FortiWeb for web traffic analysis, we have a FortiGate analyzer, etc., to scan all our traffic. And the benefit of doing that in a dedicated subscription is separate it from billing, for example. So we have a dedicated billing process, we have a dedicated management, right and access management here. So usually people which are managing the workload don't have access to it, and really the security team and the cloud team is managing it. And here we also have the connectivity approach, right? So we can terminate here all the express routes. So if physical connections, if we have some to the public cloud, we can terminate all the remote users, we can the remote sites, we can use, of course, our own services in here like DNS and then apply filtering, etc. And this is the construct, the classic approach, which most companies are executing. And here is an example how such a cloud security services hub, just from a network perspective with a FortiGate, it does look like. So we have a very simple here, the workloads deployed with and then peered by VNet peering, and the whole routing can be steered dynamically by using BGP, for example. But the requirement for that is using a route server. This is a simple service which you can deploy from Microsoft to interact with all that cloud native services like VPN gateways for terminating express routes, for example. And as I said, you can also have workloads inside of that Cloud Security Services Hub. So this means this is a dedicated VNet for it. However, usually we don't recommend this, and usually customers don't want to have that, right? So this is quite simple. You can deploy that whole infrastructure by just a click of a mouse. We have all the templates ready, and there is a wizard which you can click through and fill in all the VNet information, all the licensing information, and so on, and deploy it right away. All right. Any question to that scenario, or how that is being deployed, or no? Everyone is speechless.
Yeah, it's maybe good. We will share after the demo. We will share the Terraform script and the GitHub repository, so you know where to find it. So we'll come back on that.
Exactly. All right. So there is another approach. So we can do this by our own. We have the FortiGate appliances available in the marketplace. You can simply deploy that, and there is also a managed approach. This means Microsoft or any other vendor is providing a service which is really managed by them. And there you can terminate all that physical remote users, sites, and also other hubs, so other regions, and connect them together. This is an overview about all that cloud native services. As I said, you use the route server for interacting. You have the application gateway for publishing applications in the cloud. We have express routes, SD-WAN capabilities of the FortiGate, of course, and also Virtual WAN. So what I want to show you real quick is how we integrate in Virtual WAN, what we have done with Microsoft together, to integrate. So what is Virtual WAN? Did anyone heard of it? No? I don't know if they are able to raise their hand from the remote, but
looks like not, but let's assume not. Yeah.
Okay. So Virtual WAN is a managed service from Microsoft, just to aggregate all that connectivity services which they have available. And the benefit of using that is you can use the whole backbone of Microsoft and don't have to rely on the internet. This means usually that private companies have much faster bandwidths and also lower latencies. All right. Yeah, this is summarized what I just said. And our integration look like we have a FortiGate or 2 FortiGates in a scale set deployed. And also we have our virtual networks peered in the same region. So as said, we could have multiple regions. And then we have here all the capabilities which we have on the FortiGate side to deploy SD-WAN. So this means we can directly terminate all our sites into it, which are in the same region. We can then just peer the next hub. We can just deploy a hub by a click of the mouse, and we can manage those FortiGates with a FortiManager. So quite straightforward. So this is an active-active scale set, but all the sessions are being synced. So this means in case of a failure, the other one takes over seamlessly. All right. So what are the key use cases for that scenario? So not all the use cases fit. This means we have, for example, branch-to-branch filtering. So we can filter all our traffic between our VNets, or we can do even microsegmentation if we want to, and also between the branches. Then, of course, between the cloud and the on-premise sites, and also from the on-premise or the cloud towards the internet. We can do the same by adding a second hub and then do the same inter-hub. This means branch-to-branch inter-hub, east-west, VNet to VNet inter-hub. The same between cloud and on-premise. So here we have the benefit again for using the Microsoft backbone. And also express route, if you have physical connections directly into the cloud, you have much, much lower latency. And now these are the use cases which are possible, but what we don't show on the slide, obviously, is you can't publish any services through that. This means if you have a web server which you don't want to have a dedicated FortiWeb, I mean, if you have one, then you can just use that to publish a service. But if you just want to use a FortiGate, for example, with a WIP, what several companies are doing, and this is not a scenario which fit. Okay, any questions? Now, it's still unclear. Good. These are some resources. If you want to know more, I can show you real quick how this is being deployed, how easy it is right now. Good. So let me share my screen. Sorry, it was, yeah, ist minimiert gewesen. Share screen.
Yep, good.
Aber doch noch nicht? Jetzt? Gut? Nicht gut?
Ja.
Okay, perfect. So if we log in to our virtual WAN, it looks like that. So this means we have the virtual WAN itself, and inside the virtual WAN, we have that hub deployed. And then we have our connections. This means this is the VNet connection, which we have peered to our virtual hub. And as said, we have our hub inside this virtual WAN deployed. And in this virtual WAN, we can see we have two routing instances, which are not visible to us, but it's a highly redundant system coming from Microsoft. And you see just the status. And then you can see you can access, enable here, VPN site-to-site, user VPN point-to-site, express route, even Azure Firewall. However, we don't use that since we have FortiGate deployed inside of that construct. All right. So we can configure here all the routing. We can configure here the network virtual appliance, and all the information we see from that FortiGate pair, which is being deployed, is this IP information. There is no more information around what the configuration is, around what is being done in there. Oh, sorry, you see that as well. Maybe I try to minimize that. Okay. You can only see the private IPs, the public IPs, because we have an active-active. We have both appliances have a public IP. And if we are establishing any IPsec connection, for example, we are doing that directly towards the public IP, the node. All right. So we have our route table. This route table is being used to steer traffic from the VNet, which is residing inside the cloud of the same region, towards the hub. And this means we have a next hop IP of an invisible internal load balancer. This load balancer is coming just out of the construct. When we deploy the virtual WAN hub, we have that load balancer available, and it's just one IP below the first FortiGate appliance, the internal IP, of course. And the next hop, or the assigned subnet, is then the spoke VNet, which we have available. And if we go to a VM inside of the spoke VNet, the effective routes look like that. We see here we have equal cost multipath, since we have for all those routes 2 entries towards each of the node. All right, we see that the default gateway became invalid, and our user route applied to that VM. All right. So how does it look like from the FortiManager side? How do we configure those appliances? So these are our FortiGates. So we have 2 branches, and we have also here a hub deployed. And what do I need to do to configure those? And just to double check here that we have FGSP enabled. So this means we have the whole sessions which are being synchronized between those appliances. All right, these are the branches, branch 1 and 2. And if we go to the provisioning templates, inside the SD-WAN template, we configure the whole branch. So which interfaces we have, which SD-WAN interfaces, and then which members we have of that interface. This is just a basic configuration for each branch we have. In the overlay template, we have a wizard, and then we can select here dual hub because we have an active cluster. We can define our members of that cluster, or our 2 hub members, and also the branch group. This is just a group of the branches. Then we configure the overlay IP. This means this is the IP to which we configure. We like to configure for each hub node. We do that manually, and also just use the IP for the branches, apply the config for the branches, which we just did before. And we've finished, and then we can install the whole configuration. We have applied the whole SD-WAN setup. It's that simple. All right. Then we have that east-west, branch to branch connectivity, which we are checking real quick. You can test it. You can just verify it between just showing which one is picking up the traffic. We see here that we are here filtering, for example, 3389. This is RDP port. And if we are connecting from branch 1 to the branch 2, we will see that one FortiGate, so in this case, FortiGate 1, picked up traffic. All right, we can do that over for the other one, between branches and on-site, or also branch to the internet or spoke to the internet. But I don't want to show that because it's not that interesting. All right, that was it from the demo side. And it's now real quick to the question of Sylvia. I will share my other window. Give me a second. It's here. Share. Okay. Good. What we can do here is, in case of using metadata, using tags, we can use, for example, Azure policy to apply automatically tags to several services, VMs, etc. And what we can do is picking up actions. This means we can create an automation inside of Azure, for example, which is triggering a webhook of the FortiGate to execute an automation stitch to then perform several actions. In that case, we created a microsegmentation. So we created for each and every new service or VM which is being created, a dedicated network, and then we automatically apply routes to the FortiGate using automation stitches. This is a sample use case which we did. It takes a few steps to install. This is a demo GitHub where you can see all the steps which are needed. Here we have the runbook, for example, and then we can see the modification of the route table, and we can configure then on the FortiGate the whole automation. And in the end, we just filter for categories and have then the whole, or we have here the event log in case of an event log is being then triggered. we add a specific route. This is how it looks like. Does it answer the question? That's an example, yeah. We can do many things, logic things. We have logic apps available where you can, yeah. The webhooks is the opener for that on the FortiGate side, right? For example.
Yeah, I will maybe come back to that same question from a different way. Let me share also my screen. So yes, I need to.
Philip, you have break now.
Yeah, no. One second. I want to answer the question, but from
don't want the people held back from the call.
No worry, no worry. We will be fast. Yeah, let me share my screen again. Do you see my screen now? Okay, good. I will just Adrien was showing, yeah, how to yeah, it's there on the left.
Yeah, but
no, this one is black.
Okay, let me share my screen again. See what's the problem. Should be okay. Coming. Okay, maybe you have to switch.
Yeah, you should not unplug this one.
Yeah, but I did to
yeah.
get some power. Let me show. Hold on.
maybe do it after the break.
Yeah, let's do the break.
Yeah, okay. So let's do the break. Yeah, and we can fix that. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's do a 10 minutes break.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Yeah, thank you, Rudy. So 15 minutes. You're too kind with the participants. So let's do a 15 minutes break. Then we will show again automation and how you can create metadata rules to answer the question, which is from another angle. And then we go into the AWS security, and we will then go into DevSecOps, container security, and multi-cloud security. So the other part. Yeah. Thank you. See you soon.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. Welcome back. Thank you very much. I hope it was a fast break. After all, 15 minutes is not that much. So thanks for coming back. And I will just illustrate again what Adrien presented on Sylvia's question about how you can benefit from the automation that you get from FortiGate console, and how you can bring this into the metadata scripting, and how you can get code out of this. Yeah. So here you're into the FortiGate console. You click into the automation. For the ones who have not tried this, and then you come into create a new automation trigger. So the automation logic is you have a trigger, then you have an event, and then it does an execution. Yeah. So the trigger can be a compromised host, can be something happening in FortiAnalyzer. Yeah. It can be, yeah, or even it can be another webhook triggering something. Webhook is an external application, so it can be an alert in Splunk triggering something. Yeah, you can even select that as a webhook. Yeah, so that is the trigger. So anything, and the webhook can be Azure also. There is something happening on Azure that is a webhook to trigger an automation stitch. Yeah, because remember you have activated the SDN connector to Azure. So a search webhook could be an Azure event also. Yeah. Okay. So something happens, being yeah, a webhook or coming a compromised host. Then whenever the clicker works, looks like.
Just do this automation station in the root FortiGate.
In the FortiGate, yes, correct. Yeah, let me give you the microphone. It's maybe better. So you take it back. Yeah. So yeah, the question. Ask the question again, if you could.
So my question is that the automation stage.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
It's a good. Okay, automation. You can only do this at the root FortiGate, right?
should work on other VDOMs as well, but I guess Sylvia is more aware of that.
Per VDOM feature.
Yeah, it should be per VDOM. It's a good question.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
but we will reconfirm during the meeting. Good. Okay. I cannot.
However, maybe I comment of that. We strongly not recommend using any VDOM in cloud.
Okay. Good. Next, so you define your trigger, then you define your action. Yeah. So action can be I bind traffic to that IP, or it can be I notify my SOC, my security operations team, by Slack, yeah, or by email, or by logging into Sentinel, or logging into whatever, yeah. So you have this trigger, then you define the action, and the action can be I launch an Azure function. Yeah, that's what we explained before, which stops traffic to that VM, for example. Yeah, so you can pilot from the automation stitches. You can pilot your security into public cloud by getting a trigger from public cloud and an action into public cloud. Yeah, so it's really you keep FortiGate as the master of managing and filtering all the traffic and applying all the rules in and out. That's what we mean by this automation, and that's quite interesting. Now, if we go on and answer the question about metadata, so this is an example, yeah. So the example here, you know, you create a webhook to identify if there is too many attempts to log as admin, yeah. Then it triggers a webhook, and the webhook will do something. And let's look at what it does into the next slide. Yeah. So here the event is wrong login, and here you want to trigger a notification to your security admin via Slack. So you use that webhook. You configure an HTTP external access to Slack, and then it will automatically notify your administrator that there is 3 attempts to log in as admin on the FortiGate console, and they are wrong passwords, so you need to do something. Yeah. So that's an example of how you can use this automation. Okay. And then now, yeah, it's about the same thing. Yeah. So now, how can you use that across cloud security? So you can, let's say you have this construct, you have your VNet where you terminate the traffic, where you have the FortiGate VM, you have VNet peering to VNet 1, VNet 2 into Azure. And then you want to define security policies which are consistent between your on-prem, your data center, and these FortiGate VMs. Yeah. So you want to define security policies which are not specific to public cloud, but are metadata driven. That's what I was saying before. Yeah. So how you do that? You come into the dynamic object. Yeah. So you would create a dynamic object, which is here. It's a dynamic object which applies to any web server. So it's a policy that is applying to a web server. The web server can be on Azure, can be on your on-prem data center, anything. The logic is if there is something happening to this web server, I do something. Yeah. So you meta tag that as a web server, and you apply a policy as a web server. Now, what happens? Yeah. So your web server, your VM is tagged as a web server, compute type web server. You apply through the SDN connector and through this dynamic policy and routing, you apply a policy which says that anything, and any traffic to this, then I will launch a webhook to launch an Azure function to update the route table in Azure. So I close traffic to that web server. Yeah. So if there is an attack, if there is something which is putting my web server at risk, then I launch through a webhook into Azure a change of the route table to close traffic. That's an example, yeah? But that's how you can play with metadata, to answer your question, Sylvia, because then you leverage the metadata tagging to apply an automation stitch. You leverage the webhook into Azure to launch a Lambda function. So it's a little bit, obviously, a construct you have to practice. Yeah, I'm not saying you do that when you wake up 8 a.m., but it's really a way to manage end-to-end in a consistent manner your security rules from on-prem to the cloud. Okay, good. So we try to illustrate what a really good question. So let me move back to you now, Adrien, to talk about.
Can you switch the presentation?
Yeah, AWS. Yeah. So let me do that. So maybe it's better you take over.
Should I?
Yeah,
Okay.
let me give you. Yeah, you can shift to Adrien's PC. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hold. Okay.
Yeah, all good.
All good? Perfect. So in terms of AWS security, we have several more options, I would say. The first option is we can use a FortiGate VM, as we saw on the Azure side, and just use, for example, the gateway load balancer. This is a feature of AWS, which allows us just to send all the traffic towards a FortiGate and then send the traffic back, which is being inspected or blocked. If it's not being sent back, then it will just be dropped. This is special because the FortiGate doesn't need to be in line of the traffic. So it's just out of the line, but the AWS gateway load balancer ensures that the traffic will be inspected by the FortiGate. Philippe, I can't click.
Okay, I'll click.
Sorry, it's on my screen. Yeah, I forgot. The second option is the native firewall. We can also use the native firewall of AWS, and then you can use our rules. So this means you have all the benefits of our FortiGuard services. This is completely managed. This means the rules are regularly updated, and you pay just per rule. So this means even if you use the network firewall of AWS, you can use our Fortinet technology behind. And the third option, that's a new option. This is a new SaaS service. So this means we have a service deployed inside of AWS, but this is a subscription of Fortinet. So this means SaaS. And you can configure those policies and rules via the FortiManager and also the AWS Firewall Manager. All right, this is a big picture of how an integration in AWS could look like. As said, we can here see the Cloud Security Services Hub again. This is exactly the same construct as we have seen it from the Azure side, but we can also deploy a Transit Gateway, attach all our VPCs to it, and have their production workload. So we have also here CNP, we have the FortiWeb, for example, where we can use the fabric connectors to integrate. We integrate in the security services hub, the security hub of AWS. And yeah, this is. Any question to that classic approach before I show you the new SaaS service we have real quick? No? Okay. So this cloud native firewall, as
that's
I said,
option free. Huh? Just now we are looking into how you can implement option free, which is the managed firewall by.
Yeah, not how to implement, but
how it's
we can inspect inbound, outbound traffic. As said, we can manage it by FortiManager, or AWS Firewall Manager. We can do both, and we can inspect for sure east and west traffic. So how does that look like? We have the VPCs connected to that cloud native firewall. And as said, we have the whole FortiGuard services. Basically, it's just a FortiGate VM, which is transparent to you. You have a SaaS portal available for the whole configuration. And as said, you can connect it to your FortiManager, and you can just deploy it through the AWS Marketplace. You will pay it on an hourly basis as any other service, and you're not able to bring your own license. Yep. This is the big picture of the CNF. We have, for sure, we have to position it. This is if you need protection for an environment which is maybe short-living, and you just need a firewall service, and you know, hey, I have already FortiManager of my environment and so on, then you can easily just spin up the thing. You don't have to care about that whole configuration in your environment. You can just pair it with that SaaS service, and yeah, the whole configuration is done, right? You have running protection for your workload in there. All right, Philip,
Yeah.
I guess that's
so
your word now.
Yeah,
thank you.
So you've seen how you can create the same construct in AWS with the Security Service Hub, how you can leverage firewall as a service from Fortinet. If you're interested into FortiCNP, come back to us. We can help you get started with this, but that's an interesting service. You have a lot more material on how to work and how to co-sell with Microsoft, AWS, Google into this partner page. And then we created also material to help you about cloud security by, we call it vertical. So retail, healthcare, financial service, automotive, state and local government. Yeah. You can obviously use this material to pitch cloud security to your customer in a more focused way. Yeah, so that is quite important. Now we've seen the GitHub. I don't know if you can maybe click on the link, Adrien, so we can show you where it is. It's maybe just a way to visualize it. Yeah.
Hold on.
So the GitHub is our repository where you have this as code templates to deploy everything you've seen so far. Yeah. So you come here into the Fortinet GitHub. If you come to the root, you have the Azure templates, you have the AWS templates, you have the Google templates. We have not presented today too much on Google because we don't see Google as yet heavily present into your customer. But if you want to, it's the same concept, same design principle. If you want to get the Google templates, you obviously click here. Maybe we take an example. If you click on Azure, Adrien, so let's see what you get. Let's go FortiGate, for example. Then everything we presented to you at the top, yeah, is also what you want to use, dependent on your network construct into Azure. And then you have that really important matrix. It helps you understand what is the best design according to the customer needs and use case. Yeah. So if you have you want to filter north-south traffic, well, then you can use any of the construct, which is active, passive, active, V1, route server, etc. So you will have the templates and you have some guidance to design your solution the best way. So if you come back a bit above, so you have here, obviously, the basic template, active, passive, load balancer sandwich. That's the basic that you can deploy into the Service Hub. Yeah. But then, and then you click on it, and then you get the construct that Adrien was presenting before. And if you go down, you click on the button and you deploy to Azure. That template as code, and then you customize the IP address and you have this up and running. So you don't need to create that. Yeah. Don't spend time. It's there already. Okay. So that is the interest of the GitHub, is really help you pop up the different construct for security according to the public cloud services. Okay, so that's the GitHub. Then we have also the SDN connector. We have the obviously APIs. So that's the other aspects, yeah. And then automation, we discussed about it briefly. So this is something you can also practice, and we can guide you and help you further. So that is to conclude the network security part with the resources. And now we will we give you some access to the right links so you can access it quickly. Now, if you go to the next slide, then we go into now DevSecOps, container security, and cloud protection. Yeah. So FlexVM. So let's go into FlexVM licensing. Yeah.
Just stop screen.
No, but it's his PC. So.
Okay.
Just stop share.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So FlexVM. So why do we speak about FlexVM? Fortinet is coming with a new licensing approach, yeah, which is any virtual machine you want to help customer. If you come to the next page, you want to help customer with a much more flexible licensing model, because today we have a static VM subscription, which is 12 months paid upfront, and then you can upgrade eventually from VM02 to VM04 once during the 12 months, yeah? But you cannot downgrade, you cannot stop and start the VM. It's an old way of licensing in a way, yeah? As public cloud is emerging and accelerating, customers are expecting more and more to have a flexible way of licensing VMs. They want to start and stop the VM. They want to pay for what they use and not just buy upfront as a static way. So we created FlexVM. FlexVM is a way to obviously deploy flexible tokens. So instead of buying a license, you buy a pool of tokens. Let's say you buy 10,000 tokens, yeah? And then FortiGate, FortiWeb, FortiManager, FortiAnalyzer will consume a number of tokens per day, dependent on the service that you select, UTP, etc., and dependent on the VM size. So if it's VM02, VM04 will consume more tokens per day than VM02, okay? So you purchase a pool of tokens, and then you consume the token per day according to service and sizing. And that's interesting because you can do FlexVM licensing on VMware, Nutanix, on-prem in your data center, like in public cloud. So your customer can buy a pool of tokens and consume that tokens on-prem in their data center. And the day they want to pop up some new FortiGate VMs into the cloud security hub in Azure, they just use more tokens. They don't have to buy anything. They don't have to bother anyone. They get tokens there. So they just deploy the tokens, and that's easy, yeah? So this is something you want to really promote to your customer. We had before a minimum commitment, which made it very difficult to sell because it was 50,000 tokens. From 1st of January, we removed that. So anyone can leverage FlexVM. So the benefits are, if you go to the next slide, the benefits are that you have obviously, now you can address all the customer install base, even the small enterprise, because there's no minimum commitment, yeah? So it's quite interesting. And then they can obviously deploy these tokens wherever. So it's really flexible. And if you go to the next slide, then you get a calculator tool. So you don't know what is how many tokens are consumed per day. So you need a bit of help at the first time that you want to quote. So we have a calculator tool to tell you, okay, if you go with FortiGate, 2 VMs or 4 VM, that's CPU size, that's how many tokens per day you will consume. Yeah, so you can size the number of tokens you want to sell to your customer. And we have created also an Excel spreadsheet. So as you want to play with this, if you have multiple products, then I will call me, send me a mail. We give you the Excel spreadsheet and you can play with that also. Okay. The benefits also for the customer in the next slides is that you have a portal. So the customer can see their consumption of tokens real time per day, per week, per month. So they see where they are, how many tokens left, and then they can obviously purchase additional tokens when they need tokens. Yeah. And the other thing is they get a way to consume tokens as code. Today, you have to take a license file, put the license key into the new VM deployment, and then wait a bit, and then it works. Yeah. Now you have a line of code, you get a token, you get the token deployed as per VM deployment script. Over. So you don't need to ask someone for a license file, get the license file, purchase it. Yeah, you just use it. Yeah. And it's really, really, really convenient. And that helps you activate the support service, the license, everything as a line of code. So there's benefits for the customer is flexible licensing, any platform, this portal to manage the licensing end-to-end, the APIs to do security as code, yeah, and license as code. So if you come to the last slides, there's no more reason for that's the SKU. That's how you buy FlexVM. So I will give you the slide. There's no more minimum annual consumption. Yeah, that's the information. So let's not spend too much time here. By the way, if you want to play with FlexVM, you as a partner, ask for the 60-day FlexVM evaluation or ask for an ITF. Yeah, you can practice. Yeah, it's quite interesting that you're comfortable yourself before you sell to your customer. So don't hesitate. Ask for an ITF, and I'm sure the Rudy and the team here will be really, really pleased to help you with this. Then you're comfortable when you want to sell to your customer. And next slide, yeah.
Do the tokens expire after a certain time?
Yeah, it's really the question is, do the tokens expire after a certain time? The token expire. So if you buy a FlexVM 12 year or 12 months, yeah, you take FlexVM 12 months. The tokens, the contract, FlexVM is like a contract. It expires after 12 months. Okay. But you can renew. Yeah. So if you renew a FlexVM for 12 months again, then you keep your token into the new contract. So that is.
You pay a base for FlexVM, and for services you buy the token.
You buy the token upfront, so you buy 10,000 tokens, and then they will expire at the end of the 12 months, like a VMS, like a subscription license. But you can renew and get your token transferred into the new FlexVM contract. And also there is what's new here. There's more flexibility, because let's say you buy 10,000 tokens, and then you have no more tokens after 3 months. Yeah. So you have a grace period of 90 days before your FortiGate, your FortiWeb stops working. So the customer has time to buy new tokens and is not forced to buy the token right away. So there is also a grace period so that we don't stop the service. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So the tokens are bound to one VM installation.
Once you deploy the token, they are bound to one VM. But when you stop the VM, the tokens are released on a daily basis, and they can be redeployed anywhere else.
For example, if I'm a managed security provider and want to provide the services to many customers. Sorry.
Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in case I'm an MSP provider and want to provide all the tokens to different customers and be very flexible. So how can I do that? So, I mean, I have variety of different installations with VM, and I buy like 50,000 tokens. So I want to be able to distribute the tokens to flexible to the customers as they need it.
So what you're asking is it's a good question also. Here it's FlexVM Enterprise. So this is for resale to your customer. Yeah. So we have removed the minimum consumption level for FlexVM Enterprise. So you resell a pack of token, and then the customer is consuming the token as they wish. You have a FlexVM Managed Service Provider, MSSP, yeah, where you, as a managed service provider partner, can allocate tokens and resell tokens to your customer. So you sell tokens by the one token, and then you charge them end of the month. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a different program. Both are feasible. This FlexVM Enterprise is prepaid. So you have to buy the 10,000 tokens, and you have to resell the 10,000 token to your customers.
Yeah,
that's prepaid. But
yeah, I know
MSSP
that's prepaid, but I also could
postpaid.
use it as if I'm a small MSP provider.
You distribute
and
tokens.
I do have several customers that have their VM on site or in the cloud, so I can.
You distribute tokens.
Flexible.
You just distribute token to your customer, and you charge them for use end of the month. Over.
Okay, so yeah, so I buy the tokens.
Yeah, and then you resell your tokens.
Okay, yeah, but that's why I ask when they do expires. I mean, I have
they
different
expire
installations
of the contract. So 12 months, 36 months or more. Yeah. So the tokens will expire at the end. So you an MSSP, you buy a 12 months FlexVM MSSP contract.
Yeah.
For 12 months, you can give tokens to all your customer, and they will be charged end of the month for their consumption until 12 months. Then you renew FlexVM, and then you continue.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, I mean, the point we want to make here is that's the old way of licensing VMs, and that's the new way of licensing VMs. Yeah. So you want to consider FlexVM for customers as soon as you reach 10,000 Swiss franc of VM, which is yet significant, but you can reach that with a pair of FortiGate and FortiManager. Then you should propose FlexVM, because it's just all benefits to your customer. There's no drawback. There's nothing bad. Yeah, it's really interesting. Okay. Any other question? Thank you for asking. Any other question from anyone else not in the room, by the way, on FlexVM? Because it's really important. Huh? Just want to make sure that you as a partner can now consider FlexVM, even though for VMware, Nutanix, and their legacy data center, because yeah, they get the same benefits also. Yeah. I don't know if you get the microphone. Yeah, right there, really.
Okay, thanks. So is there any intention that to include FlexVM into enterprise agreement?
It's a very good question. In enterprise agreement today can include perpetual licenses only. And you don't sell perpetual license to any customer anymore, unless they want to commit to more than 5-6 years. Yeah. So it's a strange licensing model, if you want. FlexVM is like an enterprise agreement in itself. So you have the Fortinet enterprise agreement, which is hardware plus perpetual. And you should ask your customer, do you want to have also an enterprise agreement for licenses? Yes, why not? Then you sell FlexVM enterprise for 60 months. That's the enterprise agreement for licensing. So it's a really good question. The enterprise agreement and the licensed enterprise agreement come together. They are hand in hand. So whenever you talk to your customer about enterprise agreement, you should also propose FlexVM hand in hand with them, so they can have an enterprise agreement on their licenses the same way. But that's really good, because you're right. It does not, the Fortinet enterprise agreement does not include VMS or FlexVM. It's a separate one. But you should always talk to your customer about the two. That's a good point, yeah? Because otherwise you miss that. And then the customer is still lacking the VM capability or pre-purchase capability. Yeah? Yeah, really good point. Really good point. Good. Okay, so that's FlexVM. So I will not insist much more, but please try to consider as much as you can, and we are here to help. Yeah. And by the way, last point on FlexVM: when you renew your customer VMS, don't renew VMS. don't renew subscription VM, just renew them with FlexVM. You will make Fortinet sales really, really, really happy because they will change their recognition. And also you will get all the benefits to your customer. Okay. Now let's talk about network security and talk about DevSecOps, container security, new modern application design development, and move to prod. And that's an interesting topic. So what we are talking about here is modern application development, and we want to help you protect the customer along the DevSecOps chain. So what is it? So we have here on the left, if you click once or twice more, yes, thank you, Adrien. So we have on the left, FortiDevSec. What does FortiDevSec does? It is a code scanner. Simple as that, yeah? Application developers develop code. They use libraries from anywhere on Earth. And before that code goes into deployment, testing, and production, you want to test that the code does not contain vulnerabilities, threats, and risk to the enterprise. So you want to make sure the developers test their code before going live, yeah? So that's FortiDevSec. Now, when you deploy that application into public cloud, you want to assess the risk on the platform itself, yeah? How is that application behaving? And is that application creating risks again into public cloud? So this is FortiCNP, Cloud Native Protection. We'll come into it. Then FortiDevSec can scan the application in a run mode also, yeah, and container. And then in production, you want to protect the traffic into that application from internet. So you need a WAF, yeah? So you need FortiWeb. And obviously, FortiWeb has artificial intelligence, machine learning. It will adapt to known and unknown. So OWASP top 10, but unknown attacks and threats can be filtered by FortiWeb. Even more if you combine FortiWeb with FortiSandbox, yeah? So you really want to consider that as a masterpiece into protecting applications for your customer. FortiIDC is another web application dispatcher that is very, very helpful for SAP security and corporate applications. We will not look into it, but just so you know. Then FortiPenTest. FortiPenTest is testing applications behavior from internet access. So you can, well, even though you have FortiWeb, then you want to make sure that anyone attacking your application with cross-site scripting or anything like this cannot pass through your application traffic, yeah? So that's FortiPenTest, and then we are back into the loop. Okay, so we will explain very quickly what each of these solutions look like, and then we'll do a demo. Okay, so let's go into it. So first one is FortiDevSec. So FortiDevSec, if you click one more, is addressing a gap, which is, well, the application developer are application developer. They are not security experts, and to be honest, they are busy developing their application, yeah? So now they want to go live, and to go live, they need to ask permission to someone. Usually the someone is themselves, because the CISO is like, okay, well, yeah, I have to trust you because I don't understand open source. I don't know what you're doing. And the network operations team, somehow they will have to trust also the developer because they don't understand, you know, how is this application developed. So the developers are creating a risk to your customer. Let's be very clear, because they play today the role of the security application experts, which they are absolutely not. So FortiDevSec is not here just to protect the application, is here to help you as a partner bring to the same meeting room the application developer, the network people, and the security teams, and have a discussion about how to go live with a new application. Yeah. it's a consulting, it's a partner discussion that you need to bring. It's not just we protect applications, click on a button, over. Bring all these people to the same room, have a discussion about how do you protect your application when you go live? What's the process today? Who does that? Who's in charge? Who takes accountability? So once you have this discussion, then you can eventually talk about FortiDevSec. Yeah. So going into the next slide, what it does, you may have a few clicks. Yeah, sorry. Then it is that scanning, which is ad hoc. You can schedule it one time, come with a report to your customer, a dashboard, or you can organize it that it runs in the background all the time. So you protect your customer also. Any piece of code which is developed into that company will be protected. Okay. So what we have now in terms of the architecture, how it works. So FortiDevSec is agent-based. So you will have somehow to convince the developer to deploy an agent into their Docker image, into their piece of code. So that somehow there is a management decision, yeah, into your customer. And then once this is done, then obviously it's automatically scanning the code and it displays the results into our solution as a service platform, which is FortiDevSec Cloud. So you will see the dashboard, you will see everything. We obviously update the scanner, we push all the threats and the latest intelligence into the scanner. And then you get from the web portal, you get the dashboard and you see what are the exposure. So the dashboard being, yeah, so that is what it is. Now, in terms of the scope, what is done behind the screen by FortiDevSec, it does a SAST scanning, which is static application code scanning. Yeah, for the developers in the room, you know what it is. For the other one, yeah, that's an interesting information. But I can tell you the developers in the room will know what is SAST scanning. It does secret scanning, secret detection. So this is any password, anything which is clearly inserted into code will be detected. Yeah, and especially it will also test that against stolen credentials. So it can also prevent access to your application if there is an exposure on this type of things. Yeah. Then you have SCA scanning, which is software composition analysis. So it's how the software correlates, what are the modules, where the modules come from, are they at risk themselves? So it's going to scan the modules. Then you have DAST scanning, which is dynamic, which is the most important because this is dynamic code scanning. And this is where, you know, for web end applications, it's going to test all the access from the external endpoints and see what's happening. Yeah. So that is all the scans that are in scope of FortiDevSec. And just to let you know, there's many code scanner out there, even open source ones or competition. But there's not many which do all of this in terms of scanning. Yeah. And that is to the container, to the VMs, to everything, to the registries. So this is really an interesting solution that you may consider. Going into the next slide, you will see how you can implement it. Yeah. So the developers will have to insert a line of code into their registry that you see here, into their, yeah. So you get a FortiDevSec, yeah, agent. And then it's automatically, you can put that into your CI/CD pipeline, into Jenkins, into Travis or GitHub Action, Azure DevOps. So you have this in your pipeline. So any piece of code which is submitted will then have the scanner automatically posted. Yeah. Then step 2 will be that you obviously, as the application owner, you will test it. So you will see what's happening into the access to your application. Then you have this management platform, and then you will see the dashboard. Yeah. So we will demonstrate to you how it looks like now. And step 3 is Well, then we revert back to the developer to tell them what to improve into their code, in as simple as that. Huh? Okay. And what's important is we prioritize. Yeah. So that is how it integrates with the CI/CD platform. Many customers are using Jenkins or DevOps, Azure DevOps. So it plugs into it and it automatically runs the scan. Then you get the dashboards, which reports what are the vulnerabilities found.
Yeah, we will see that in a demo.
And then
That's
you have
fine.
a risk
Skip
score.
that.
Yeah, we skip it.
Yeah.
We'll go into the demo. And then we have the demo.
Perfect. Give me a second. Yep. I will share.
Yeah, good. Maybe we should. We have seen
This window.
Yeah.
All right. So if you log into FortiDevSec, look like this. This is the overview about my application. And if I want to onboard a new application, I can just add it. So it takes me 4 steps. I can do a test. I don't know. I can then here select the factor, the impact. If a full breach of this application occurs, how bad is it for my company? And where the application is being deployed. If it's required, I can do it a bit bigger, sorry. If it's in a local network, if it requires physical access, or if it resides in the internet. I can directly add it to Jira, even if Jira is on cloud, in the cloud or on premise. I just need the API key for that. And the app is set up. I only have a demo account, that's why I can't do it right now. After that, we can see the different scanning types we have available, right? So here we see we have done a dynamic scan. We don't have any static scan. And if we drill down into it, we see here the rating based on which factors has the risk rating is being done. This was the question which we have been asked when we set up the application, and we see all the vulnerabilities, right? If it loads, sorry for that.
It's the demo effect.
I guess it's my browser or all the overlays from Zoom. Okay, now it changes to the FortiDevSec dashboard. This was a FortiPenTest. So we have the OWASP top 10, which we are testing the application against, and just showing the results afterwards. We can get out of that some reports, and then we can see what remediation tasks we have to do in order to get rid of those risks.
Click on one, the red one.
Yeah, you can drill into that, and then you see the query, which URI have been affected, and yeah, I guess I can drill down into that.
Yeah.
Or I can see the CVS, but yeah, this is very generic, right? I can then just assign the task, or I can just fix the task, or I can just assign any status on it. All right. Unfortunately, I have this Zoom overlay, so I try to switch tabs. Yeah. Okay. If we go back, we can manage all the different assignments we have. By the way, the page loaded now, finally. And if we go back, we can also see the different scanner config. So this is we're using GitLab, for example, and we see the OWASP top 10, which are being detected. Here we have a broken access control. We can drill into that. It loads very slowly. I'm sorry for that. It's I guess it's my computer or the internet. And I can see again here the vulnerability. what the dynamic scanner detected. If there is some code which is not good, for example, it will show in here. And the thing is also we have the scan, the static scan, in which we scan all the dependencies, right? We have the dependencies on open source libraries, for example, like Log4j. And if we detect any vulnerable version of it, it will show in here. So, and we have also the capability to fail the whole pipeline. That's how that means. So if we are using Jenkins, for example, if we build an application, the build process will fail based on the risk which we will display here. We have a severity here, and behind that severity, we have a risk factor, and we can enter a risk factor from 1 to 9, in which 9 is the highest risk, and then we can block it based on that factor.
And back to what I was presenting, that's really a way to put in place some processes into the company, into your customer, to put in control any application going into production has to be at least a risk level X, yeah? And if it's above, it does not go into production automatically. So it is really quite interesting, yeah?
Okay, we can also then see the risk rating here is very high because of our selection. We have all the vulnerabilities again, and we can scan also our whole infrastructure as code. So if we have our whole infrastructure, what we want to deploy in Azure, for example, we can scan that code. And if something is not good, so if they have a dependency, if we have anything misconfigured, it will show in here as well. This means if I drill down into that, and it loads again slow, we will see that the Docker file has one not recommended argument, for example. It will show up in here. Or if access logging is not configured, it will show up in here. So we can really design our code or infrastructure as code for best practice recommendations, which are coming from the FortiGuard labs. So the whole FortiGuard labs is behind. And this means if a new vulnerability is being detected, it will be in there in a couple of minutes. All right, so any questions on that? No, all shocked. I know we are, yeah.
Is FortiDevSec used?
Sorry, I guess you have to grab the microphone.
Also, it's quite cool. Is this FortiDevSec this designed tool for developer to use or for security engineers?
Okay, usually we have the whole CI/CD pipeline, like Philip showed before, and usually we have different teams. For example, the cloud team are working on that pipeline, for example, on the infrastructure as code. And the infrastructure as code is then running through the whole pipeline. And inside this pipeline, yes, this product is for scanning exactly this code and then to recommend what should we adjust and what should we do in order to reach best practices.
Yeah, and to answer to the same question differently, most of the developers, they will use open source type of solutions to scan against any threat, yeah? And then they will talk to their cloud infra or cloud network team to say, now I scan my application with that open source solution A, I'm safe, go to prod. There is a major gap, yeah? Nobody owns security. So the security team is not engaged most of the time. So it's really addressing that gap. There is a gap today, yeah? Is the using a out-of-the-box open source solution to do a code scan is clearly not going to protect you against most of what can be found here. So it's really addressing the gap to help the developers talk to the security team and their cloud, architect, and agree on some guidance Say, okay, if your application does not reach that level of ranking after the scan, you don't go to prod. If not, you have the right to go automatically to prod. We don't even do anything. Yeah, that is the type of discussion you want to have. And then you can help your customer putting in place such processes between the teams. So it does not target, you will not sell FortiDevSec to developers, I can tell you. They will not buy that because they get some free things from open source and they're happy with this, yeah? And everybody leave them alone. So they will not do that, yeah? But yeah, it's not a really good approach either.
Yeah, in terms we are shifting to cloud, we are using, or we are recommending using infrastructure as code. Usually for the whole backup scenario, for the whole config of the devices, we can use FortiManager. That's completely fine. You can manage all the config in there, but the whole infrastructure itself, please use it as a code or deploy it as code. And so if you want to adjust something, you just adjust the code, and then as a backup, you don't need the backup of that whole environment. You don't need to back up the VMs as we did on-premise, because we have the whole configuration on the FortiManager. We have the whole infrastructure as code, and it is according to our best practices. So yeah, no need for backup, right?
It's a really good question. Yeah. Okay,
so
good.
Let's go to the last one.
Yeah. So that
I will go back.
FortiDevSec.
No, Philip, it's not
Yeah,
finished.
It's not finished. I was thinking we were done.
So we have the demo app. I just wanted to show you that real quick. Here is the Log4j example. And if we scan that for just dependencies, it will show all that Log4j findings which the application is using. That's what I was mentioning before. Okay. I know we are not developers. I guess some of us might think this is very confusing and so on, but yeah, don't be afraid to look at it, right? So it's really.
Yeah. And as Adrian said, we give you a demo account. You can play with this. You can share that with your existing teams and customers, and yeah, let's have a discussion about this. Yeah, but that is a very interesting. This is an acquisition. So Fortinet acquired less than 2 years ago a company, Ken.io. We reworked entirely the platform and integrated with FortiGuard. So it's really an advanced solution which is matured. It's used in many other countries, so we should promote it. Yeah. So that is, yeah, I think the benefits of FortiDevSec we explained. That's a summary slide you will get. And please, yeah, we are supporting you to advocate it into your customers. So now going into the next solution, which is FortiCNP. If Adrien, you can click on the mouse.
So you want to, yeah,
on the slides, yeah. So yeah, next one is FortiCNP. So this is what is FortiCNP? So the situation here is your customer is developing workload application into Azure, and then the marketing team wants to deploy on Google or AWS. So your customer starts having obviously multiple clouds. So we are talking about small enterprise most of the time, small to mid-size enterprise, and they start onboarding cloud A, cloud B. Now the problem is, as you onboard cloud A and cloud B, then it's adding a lot of complexity because yeah, the networking, the security rules, everything is different, and you may be at risk without knowing. Yeah, most of the time on public cloud, 99.9% of the vulnerabilities are created by human beings, not by the cloud provider, because you set up wrong access to that storage bucket or access to this VM. You just don't know. I mean, most of the people make mistake, and on public cloud, it's very easy. Yeah. So that is how we are addressing this. We are trying to scan any configuration issues on public cloud. So FortiCNP is, yeah, is really helping securing end-to-end VM, storage, and container. So it's one platform to do all. Yeah. Then what it does, it's testing obviously security on cloud posture management, any vulnerabilities any entitlement issues, so rights, yeah, any exposure on data, so S3 bucket, AWS masses, blob storage, or Google DLP, GCP, cloud storage, network access to the cloud resources, yeah, where the IPs and where the traffic comes from. If you have a lot of traffic coming from China to your applications, then you may want to check what's happening. So that's another, you know, interest of CNP. And then obviously you protect workload container, yeah, into that application also. So that is the scope. Then in terms of the value proposal that we bring to customer, we scan all of this into the public clouds, and then we provide a risk scoring to the customer. The risk scoring is an aggregation on data coming from the security tools of the cloud provider, so AWS Massey, Security Center from Azure. So we aggregate that information coming already from the cloud provider, plus our own FortiGuard intelligence. And then we calculate a risk score across all the scope. And that risk score will highlight anything more than 80 will be red. It highlights the exposure to the customer so they can prioritize their actions to remediate any exposure on public cloud. Yeah. And then they can also integrate with a workflow. I think that's the next slide. They have a workflow. Yeah, so that risk calculation is unique to Fortinet, and it helps triage and dispatch the problem into a workflow, I think, which is the next slide. The workflow is helping assign the risks to the owner of the virtual machine or the container or the storage, so that the owner can take an action, which is recommended. Yeah, we tell what the person should do as a remediation. Then you sign the action to that owner, and then he should do something, report back to you it's done, and then you can store and close the risk. Yeah. Okay, so it's a risk rating assessment tool plus integrated with a workflow of the customer to get risk remediation done into an end-to-end process. So that is what is FortiCNP. In terms of the look and feel, we will go into a quick demo, but something else I wanted to share is FortiCNP has a menu. You come into the menu, you come into reports, and then you select compliance reporting.
Yeah, we will see that afterwards. That's fine.
Okay. And then you get PCI DSS, GDPR, ISO 27007 reports. So you get all the reports which are generated automatically for you. And these reports can be labeled as you as a partner name. Yeah. So they are white labeled. So it's not just Fortinet doing the thing. It can be you as a partner doing the report, and you hand over the report to the customer. Then you can start the discussion about how they are compliant on GDPR. So it's quite interesting. Let's go to the demo. Yeah, I think we can explain a bit more how it looks like.
Yeah, sure. So I will share again, but I will first need to log in because the timeout is real short on that. Okay, and share. Login file successful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's good news.
All right, try again. Log in. Yeah, we are logged in. So if you log into the FortiCNP portal, it looks like that. It loads your dashboard and it gives you an overview about all your cloud accounts you have connected. So this means we have a risk trend, so how the risk was evolving in the last few days. You can see the resource groups which are being affected, the top 5 risk or cloud accounts, see all the resources, drill down on that, or on the risks, highlights, findings, etc. Okay, what to do with this information? So if we go to the insight and the risk, we can see all our resources which are affected by risks. So this means we have here a risk of 100. This is the highest we can have. So this means if we drill down into that, we see that this resource has like internet facing, has risky connections, and has botnet activity. So real bad. So we see all our associated resources. I tried to do that a bit larger as well.
And the fact that you can see all the associated resources to that VM, for example, is really, really a great value to the customer, because
we don't need an agent or something like that to this. We can just connect our cloud accounts to that CNP. And if we drill into that, we can see in which region this resource resides to, which account, first of all, then what resource group we have applied, or security groups. And we can also then drill down into traffic, for example. So this means we have the client here, we have the external IP, we have here botnet activity. So this means if we want to see what kind of IP here are affected, we can see here all the destination IPs which are being flagged from FortiGuard as botnet. And you can also drill it down by country. You can see here these IPs from the United States. You can also see the connections to external, to and from external. You can see all the ports which are open. So here, almost everything, right? Very bad. And you can see also suspicious IP activity. This means, okay, we have here Elasticsearch, NetBIOS is open, MySQL or RDP, real bad. You can drill into that as well and can remediate all these findings we have on that page. Okay, if we go back to the resource, we can see we have also configuration risks. So we have here several policies in place, and these are being violated as well. And if we drill down into the findings, we have that here on the findings tab, specifically for that resource. So the machine should not be able to allow ping from the outside, ICMP connections, for example. And then we get the description, why or what has been violated. And then if we go into that, we also see what or how we should remediate that, right? You can see that for all those alerts or findings. We have also the vulnerabilities. You can see here the CVEs. We have here Git for Linux, which is not up to date, for example. And then we have a vulnerability assigned. We can also drill down into that. You will open another findings tab, filter to that resource. And here you can see very detailed information, what exactly is here wrong with this resource. Right, we can see the threats, suspicious botnet activity, we have seen that. If we go into that, we can just drill into the finding, and of course, we can see here the policy. If we go into that, we can see here the threat detection. We have this policy active for all accounts, and the remediation steps are shown here. There are some policies which allow auto remediation. This means if we have a publicly shared bucket, for example, an S3 bucket or so, we can automatically remove permission from public access. So this is very helpful because we have lots of data breach from public shared buckets. For example, British Airways received a fine of multiple millions of British pounds. Yeah. this was it. You can also like filter files, for example, all the files you have in all the buckets. Then you can apply some scans, for example, DLP scans. You can do malware scans and so on those files. And then, as Philip mentioned before, we can do compliance reports. We have several compliance reports available. If we go to generate, we can select, for example, all, or if we want just a few of them. Interesting here for Switzerland are, of course, NIST for enterprise and also for the public sector. Then we have ISO 27001, GDPR, PCI DSS is also very interesting in here. All right, how does such a report look like? I can share my screen real quick, the whole screen. And I have prepared that. If we look into a report, we can, first of all, fully white label that. So if you as a partner want to just scan customer environments, then you can white label those reports with your logo, with your company name and so on. And we have then here all the resources which have been scanned by this report. And then you get the report if these accounts are following the standard or not. And if you want to drill down into details, you have many pages with all the details available. And based on the report, you have also then the CSVs, which you can use for further investigation. All right, we have also the C-level reports available. The C-level reports are really to show the management what's going on, where we have resources in cloud, and it's not for remediation. It's more to just give us an overview. And this is really very simple, very high level, and yeah, to show that we have something in cloud and that we have actions to do. So we're very good for you guys to maybe present decision makers why we benefit from such a solution or what to highlight specifically. Good. Yeah. If we go back, we have the C-level reports that I've already mentioned. We have several predefined policies for risk management, for example. We can also create custom policies here. We can also filter for code pattern. We have here a code language in place. It's an open code language. I can't recall the exact name, but you can all find this in the documentation. All right. And you can also, sorry?
We need to have 2-3 slides and we have 5 minutes.
No, it's still,
it's
fine.
Finish it.
We have a risk calculation also. We can modify the risk calculation. This means if we have any customized policy in place, we can then here steer how much the impact is on the risk calculation. You can see all the threats. So if a user is logging into from a different location all the time, then we can highlight that. We can have network activity, threat detections, and of course, we can do exceptions. Same data scan as said for DLP scans. This is more regex based, not DLP, as you know, with OCR and stuff. Very simple and flat. All right, to add in a cloud account, very simple. You can just add it, Azure, Google, and AWS. You can do a whole organization, or you can do one account only. All right. This was one side of the CNP. We have another whole side, and this is the container scanning. So if you have any containers in place, we can scan the whole containers for vulnerabilities. This means we can access the on-premise or also the cloud container registries, repositories, scan those and give a vulnerability in here. we can integrate here in the whole CI/CD pipeline as well. And you see that some builds have been blocked because they are vulnerable to any CVs. And you can also do compliance scans. And then you have the CIS benchmark for each and every image. Yeah, this is a whole other story. So I don't know who is working with containers here in the room. Great, no one. Okay, so skip that.
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
pretty important. Yeah, I think, yeah.
So if there are no questions from the audience, remote,
question
we
on,
can go back to the slides.
CNP, that's a very important tool that you should consider discussing with your customer, because as they adopt and as they start moving into the cloud, they want to make sure they are not exposed. Yeah. And you want to help them assess their exposure and come back with the data. The other reason why you should use it is because we give it to you. So that tool is for free for you as a partner if you pass NSE6 cloud certification. So NSE6 Azure training is half a day. It's really, interesting because you understand how to use Azure, how to deploy a FortiGate VM into Azure. You practice the templates that we just shown before. So we highly encourage that you pass NSE6 Azure training. And once you are certified from NSE6 Cloud Azure, then we give you for free the license pack. So you can talk to your customer, run a security assessment with CNP, and come back to the table and discuss about their risk exposure on public cloud. Yeah. So it's for free. So yeah, and it's really a valuable platform. So use it. Yeah, that's our recommendation. Yeah, and then as you engage with the first project, we are here to assist. We are here to come with you. We are here to help you review the assessment outcome, the reporting, so that you can reflect the outcome to the customer the best way. Okay. So that is FortiCNP and FortiDevSec. Now we have this other tool, which is FortiPenTest, which is quite interesting to test the application from outside. We will not spend too much time because time is always an issue on this planet. But that's also something interesting because as your customer have a lot of web applications, then they want to do the same. They want to assess how it can be attacked from the external. Yeah. So FortiPenTest is also very cheap as a tool. It's licensed by a number of users. It's a giveaway to customer because that's really a way to get visibility on how your web applications are exposed out there. Okay, so consider that also. If you have a customer developing web application, having a lot of web application, let's do a pen test exercise. It's really nice, very interesting outcome. You have a dashboard, you have a portal, same principle, yeah. But that's really interesting platform. Okay, and that's OWASP top 10. So I wanted to go a bit fast today. I think we had until 12:30, but the objective is not to use all the time also. So we wanted to do an overview of how to protect networks into public cloud and extend your security rules into Azure, AWS, make it consistent, help the customer with the right approach to secure public cloud networking. We looked a little bit into automation, security as code, and advanced automation with the stitches. We looked at the metadata tagging for obviously the way you can create rules to be agnostic on platform. So that's the network security part. Then we talked about the DevSec application native security, which is FortiDevSec, FortiCNP, FortiPenTest. All of this may be new to you as a partner. Don't be afraid. You know, we're here to help. We're here to work with you for the first project. We give you the license. We help you get started. So raise your hand, talk to Ball, talk to us, so we can help you. You have our detailed contact information here for me and Adrien, and we are paid to help you. So we are here to help you. So if you don't ask anything, we do nothing, yeah, to be clear, which is okay, but but that's not the objective. Yeah. So use us as a resource on top of Ball. So I wanted to thank very much the Ball team here who organized this event and obviously is helping us support you the best way into this cloud security domain. Any last question before we close the presentation? Anyone? It's always difficult to ask the last question, but don't hesitate. Okay, good. I think we are done. I hand over back to you already. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Adrian, for the interesting session. And yes, get in contact with us if you have some questions about cloud security, FortiCNP, FortiDevSec. Yes, come to us and we try to help you, or get in contact with Philip and Adrian. Okay. Thank you for coming to us, and yeah, our online attendance. Yeah, thank you for attending the session, and
see you soon.
Welcome. See
Thank
you
you so much.
Bye bye.